Good afternoon, everybody. I welcome you to the WMGA Swing Series. I'm Lorianne Cerullo, the president of the WMGA. We have started this series to kind of help us work with our shelter in place and our self-quarantine. As much as we enjoy golf, we obviously want to take care of ourselves, and I hope this does find all of you safe and healthy. I'm very happy to announce Sharon McQuillan, who is with us today to give us about 30 to 45 minutes of some fundamentals, some drills, and some insight on our golf swing as we're getting ready to go back out there. And as you know, Sharon has been in the golf industry her entire life. She was on the tour, and she has been in both an LPGA and a PGA Pro, which is one of the first in the country to do both dual memberships. And she's a Class A LPGA teaching professional. And just to let you know, from a dynamics perspective, you guys can all see Sharon, but it is mute. If you have any questions you'd like us to work with her on, please open your chat, and Sarah Relier and myself will be monitoring that. So Sharon, with that, I'm gonna put the floor over to you.
Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is the grip. And basically what I'm going to do, now I'm right-handed, so it's going into my left hand first. So if you're left-handed, you have to change everything around. Okay, so it's going into my left hand. When I put my hand on, basically what I want is this club to be in my fingers. I don't want it up in my palm, up in my fingers. A good way to actually test this, it's like holding an umbrella. So if I stretched out my left hand and held an umbrella, I'd hold it in my fingers. I would never hold it in my palm. And the reason for that is so that I can cock my wrist, basically hinge my wrist here. If it was in my palm, I couldn't do that. And quite often I'll have a student come, and sometimes an advanced student, and the club has moved up on top of, basically into their palm a little bit, and they're having a hard time actually hanging onto the club. So then they'll hang onto it with their right hand. Okay, so once again, it's underneath this heel pad here, basically at the top of my fingers. When I close up my hand, my hand will be slightly to the right, and I see two knuckles, and sometimes I see part of a third. My thumb goes slightly to the right side of an imaginary center line. Excuse me. Okay, so that's my left, excuse me. So that's my left hand. Okay, now when I take my right hand, what I'm going to do, there's three different grips. The baseball grip, where your entire right hand goes on the club, but very few people hold it like that, hardly any tour players. There was a tour player, Beth Daniel. She was a great player in her day, but she was the only one I really know who did that. And that's 10, or they'll call it the 10-finger grip. The other grips, which are very popular, are interlocking, where your forefinger of your left hand comes off the club and wraps around the pinky of your right hand. Okay, this is an interlocking. A lot of times we'll give this to the kids because their hands are up and down the shafts. Okay, and then the other one is an overlapping. That's where your entire left hand stays on the club and the pinky of your right hand overlaps in between your middle finger and your forefinger. It just plops up there. It doesn't wedge them apart, it just sits. Now, and then it sits in your fingers of your right hand, and this thumb will go right into the lifeline of my right hand. We tell the kids it's the hot dog in the bun. Good way to remember it. I've started teaching my adults the way we teach the kids because everyone remembers those things. Hot dog in the bun. So it goes right into that lifeline, and then this thumb goes slightly to the left side of an imaginary center line. The other thing too is when you do your gripping, And after you're all set up with your hands, make sure your club face is straight. Straight meaning that these lines on the club are perpendicular to your intended ball to target line. If the club is face left, for the most part, the ball will go left. Conversely, if it's right, it'll go right. So these lines, because quite often people will put their hands on the club and they squeeze it really tight and the club winds up facing left. If that happens, just loosen your hands up, squiggle the club around. That's a technical term, squiggle. And make sure that club is facing down the target line. Okay, so those lines are perpendicular. Okay, that's the grip. I know I'm going through these, quickly, but we have a lot of things to cover. Posture. When you stand up straight, you have an indentation in your lower back. It's not arched. So we're standing up straight. When I tip forward, I'm going to tip from my hips. A good way to get that is to take the club, put it on the top of your legs, and push your butt out. So here's my flat. I have a flat lower back. Very important. It's not curved, nor is it arched. You're standing up straight, and you tip forward, and you tip from your hips. And when you do that, your weight's going to be on your whole foot, not back on your heels or up on your toes. Your weight's going to be, it's like slightly in back of the balls of your feet. So it's a ready position. Many people ask me, how far away do you stand from the ball? So when I tip forward, I want my hands to hang about 4 or 5 inches from my thigh. So if I didn't tip over enough or didn't bend enough, my hands are almost touching my thigh. If I bend too much, my hands are about 12 inches from my thigh or from my knees at this point. You want your hands hanging out of your shoulder, roughly about 4 or 5 inches from your thigh. And that's where I'm going to hold the club. And at the end of the club will be the ball. So that's a good way to get your distance from the ball. If you have the longer clubs, the woods or your driver, your hands are going to be slightly in front of your shoulders. Okay, this is a 9-iron. So hands just under my shoulders, hands roughly about 4 or 5 inches from my thigh. So that's a good setup. That's a good distance. You will see some tour players, they might get really close. But what I'm talking about now is just, basic setups, nothing fancy, run-of-the-mill setups, fundamentals. And when we talk about the swing, it's going to be what majority of the golfers, the good golfers do, and mainly the touring pros. I know not everyone wants to be a touring pro, but we base a lot of models on sort of what they do. We figure they do it the best, and if 90% of them do it, there must be something to it. Okay. For this club, this is a 9-iron, but let's say this was a 7-iron. 7-iron is a good reference point. You'll keep that, your feet will be about shoulder width apart.
Sharon, you might want to move back a little bit because we're just, you got it. That'll be better. Thanks.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. So feet about shoulder width apart for a 7-iron. The way to measure that, if you draw a line from your shoulder, basically to your instep. And that could be a 7-iron. Shorter irons, your feet get a little closer. The longer clubs, your feet get a little wider. Ball position. Now I teach approximately 3 inches inside your left heel for your irons, 2 inches for your fairway woods, and your driver off your instep. Now, many people say, well, I play my short irons closer to my back foot. And that's fine. But if you notice this, I set up Usually this is about 3 inches, so it's a good way to measure. So here's the ball position. I'm going this way. I have my, let's pretend this is a 7-iron. So my feet are shoulder width apart. Now I have a shorter iron. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move my right foot closer. Now the ball appears to be more centered, but I never move my left foot. Longer clubs, I move my right foot out. Now it looks like it's much closer to my left foot, which it is, but I never moved this left foot. So if this foot moves in for a shorter iron, it does wind up in the center of my stance because this foot moved in. If you do choose to play the ball closer to your back foot, that's fine. What you'll get is just a lower trajectory shot. It'll fly lower. Good for windy days. Normally when you're doing that, you don't take a full swing. You take a 3/4 swing if you put the ball back, which in general, if you're hitting a short iron, anywhere from like maybe an 8-iron, 9 wedge, sand wedge, you rarely will take a full swing. You mostly take 3/4 swings. It's much easier to be more accurate. And you can put that back. It'll be a low trajectory. It won't be affected by the wind. And it's like a sharper hit. Other than that, if I play the ball back, I'm hitting under a tree. I'll move my left foot forward, play close to my back foot, or of course chipping will be close to my right foot. Now, briefly going over alignment. Now, on Sunday, I went out and played a few holes. And I kept hitting the ball left. And I could feel it. I was actually hitting. I could feel my shoulders moving this way instead of under. And I'll talk about that in a second too. And I said, I wonder if I'm aiming right. So after I took a swing, I took the club, put my right foot back down on the ground, put the club on the ground, and I was aiming right. So what I wound up doing was coming around to make it go straight. And that's usually what does happen when someone is not aiming correctly. You actually know that you're not aiming correctly, and you start compensating to make the ball go to the target. So aiming, if this club, let me get another stick here. So if this were, I'm just going parallel to the edges of this mat here. So let's say this was the intended target line. When I set up, I want to be parallel to that. Feet, knees, hips, and shoulders. And what I was doing the other day, I was aiming my body more at the target, subconsciously. I know I'm supposed to be this way, but I actually aimed myself this way, and I started coming around. And I would overdo it, and I was pulling the ball left. Because if I didn't do it, I hit it straight right. So very important to be parallel to your intended ball to target line. Okay, everybody, that's a quick fundamental. You'll be tested on that. Right, Lorianne, you'll be sending out a test to everybody.
You got it. We'll put a little monkey survey with that.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the golf swing. Now, this is what I teach. I worked under Jim McLean for 9 years, and like I said, I worked on my own swing with Patty McGowan and David Ledbetter's. And they teach a lot of tour players, and they're kind of guru teachers. So that's for the most part where I got most of my teaching philosophy. And it's kind of basic. So what I do teach is kind of run of the mill, nothing fancy, just hard work. Right, Lorianne? Okay. When I give a lesson, what I do is I have 2-camera capture. I have a camera right in the front. If I'm going this way, right? Camera in front and a camera on the side going down the line. And what I'm looking for from the front camera, I want to know, what is your body doing? From the side camera, what path is that club on? So from the front, okay, I'm just going to cross my arms. This is what I'm looking for the body to do. This is what your body's supposed to do. After I take that nice posture, you're turning, body's turning, head can move about an inch to 2 inches to the right. Load it up on a very stable back leg, hip over the knee, over the shoe. Then there's a slight lateral with your hip, and then there's a pivot coming through, and I'm standing up. Weight is almost completely on my left side, and it's almost like I could walk down the fairway after that. So once again, this is what I'm looking for. Is the body pivoting? How much can the person turn? Loading up on their back leg, slight lateral, and then a turn through. What I see for correctional purposes, when people need to be corrected, people sway, they come up, they're not really turning, they'll not shift, or they'll swing their arms, and then after the club's here, then they shift. So, and sometimes they'll shift and they don't turn. So, like I said, this is what I'm looking for. Turn, shift, turn back. It's the same motion you make when you're throwing a ball underhanded. You come back, you load up, you might not turn as much, but then you start shifting and you finish. Okay, when I'm looking at the swing from the side, I try to figure what path is that club on. Now remember, I want the body turning. So the positions of the club that I'm looking for is when that club starts back, when it gets here, I like to see the club parallel to the toe line. The second position, I like to see somewhat of a wrist hinge and the club in line with your bicep. And then the third position, I like to see it, if I were to drop the club, in line with my shoulder. Then I like to have it come down pretty much on the same path. Back to path, to parallel, and then shooting out, parallel, and then back around the shoulder. Now remember what the body was doing, right? I've already checked, the body's going back, coming through, and that club on that path. Now what I do see incorrectly, which I go to correct, is the club off path. And usually if that happens, that means the body isn't turning. Because when I take those pictures, I take a picture, those two cameras are capturing the same swing. So I'm able to see the club is off path. Did that person not turn? Because I'll see that from the front. Or I'll see the club out here. When I see the club going in here, usually what happens is the club is off path, but then they pick it up to put it on path, and then it just keeps going. It's out here. Then it has to be pulled back to hit the ball. And I'm sure you've all heard the term over the top. It's a very popular swing fault, and it's probably the most prevalent swing fault, that the club moves on a different path. And it usually comes from here, up, over, and someone pulling it in. And then a lot of times what happens is, or your friends will say, keep your head down, because the club came out here and then you had to pull in to hit the ball. And you look at what I do. I kind of come up because I have to get out of the way. Do you ever see the person who steps back? Because they're basically trying to hit the ball and pull the club toward them. So the drills that I do, that's very basic That is what I'm looking for in a golf swing when I give a lesson. Some of the drills you can do, I do have a YouTube channel. There are some other people on my YouTube channel. I don't know how that happens, but it's Sharon McQuillan Golf. But some of the drills that I recommend to people, and you can do this in your house, for the body drill, to make sure you're making a turn, there's a couple of things that are great. This is called the Harley drill, named after, this is Harley 1. This is the real Harley, like you're driving a motorcycle. But Harley 1 is like this. You swing it back, and here's your turn. You load it up on your back leg, slide your hand down, and now you have your backswing. Another way to get there, this is another drill. Put the club on your shoulder, pivot toward the back wall, push your arms out. So there's your backswing. So those are great ways to kind of get you into a backswing. For your path, there's a few things you can do. You can get a mirror, put it on the side, or a glass door. Sometimes you go on your porch if you have a glass door on your porch. Or you could do it with your hands, but I'll show you with the club first. So the mirror is in the back. And this drill is on the YouTube channel. You can practice. Okay, when it gets here, is it parallel? Oh no, it's in here. Okay, there it is. Next position, is it around my arm? Yes. Is it over my shoulder? Oh no, it's way down here, or oh no, it's way up here. So you can actually check, where is that club going? So you practice your backswing, like so. Another thing you can do, ride the wall drill. This is a good one. This isn't a wall. We don't have a free wall here. If you do this in your house, make sure you have a sock or something on your club. Otherwise, you mark up your wall. And I did have a student do that one time. His wife killed him because he had to paint the wall after. But what you do is you swing back. When the club gets shoulder height, you're on the wall. So it's on the wall, and then you start down, and when you do that, you start shifting, and it rides the wall until you get to your right shoulder again. So you're up and down the same path. 1, 2. So you're up and down. Hopefully you're on the right path on your backswing. And then you want to come down on the same path on your downs. Up and down. Another one you can do, just for loosening up, you can just swing the club like so. If you notice, it's going up over my shoulder, and it's coming straight down. It's not going this way. So up and down. And you can rock back and forth. You can even lift your feet up for just to really feel yourself shifting your weight. In general, I do like to see that left foot staying down on your backswing, because most times when people do raise their foot, they raise themselves up. So if you can keep that down, you're flexible enough, and most people are, that not only gets you turning, it also keeps the club on path. It keeps, reinforcing the path of that club. But that's basically what I was going to present.
Okay. Terrific. No, I love those drills. Thank you very much, Sharon. I don't see anybody on the chat with a question, but we did get some questions before. This one doesn't have to do with a lesson specifically, but it was from Jeannie Gadsden, who said, how did the other head pros treat you when you were hired as the first female head professional in the Met section?
Well, actually, I wasn't the first one. I actually did respond. I know Jeannie.
Okay.
I wasn't the first one. There was an older woman years ago in the city who was a head pro, and she was a PGA member. She was the first PGA member, one of the first in the country. like really one of the first. I was actually among the first in the country to be a PGA member, but I think she was like the top, like 5. She was the first head pro. Cammie Maxwell was the second head pro. I was the third.
Okay.
And that was at Bonnie Breyer. I was there for 10 years. I always feel my claim to fame is that I became a head pro twice. I think I'm the only woman to have become a head pro twice in the Met section.
Excellent. Excellent.
But I would like to tell everyone that I am offering a COVID complimentary swing analysis. If anybody wants to send me a video, you know, in your iPhone of your swing, I could give you a quick evaluation. Now, the evaluation might be that you need golf lessons. No.
No, we will get that information out to everybody after the wrap up here. So we will do that. So.
If anybody has, you know, you just want a thought about what you're doing, you just have to put either down the line and a face on is very helpful. And you can do it in your house. If you do it in your house, just watch out for the lamps.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have enough. Hit something. If you can't hit a ball, put a tee on the ground and swing at the tee so that you're swinging at something.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And then another question was from Cheryl Brayman. When you are looking to take lessons, you know, a lot of times you could have a preconceived notion where you come in and say, well, I want to fix my drive, I want to fix this. What should we be looking for in taking lessons and getting lessons? What would you recommend?
Well, when I have someone come and they usually, and quite often people say, oh, I hit everything fine except my driver. Well, the reason that is because the driver is the most difficult club to hit, and it will show your swing fault. So usually if you're missing your driver, it's probably showing up in your other clubs, although it exists in your other clubs, although the other clubs are more forgiving.
Sure.
So unfortunately, what does need to happen is when I present it to people, I'll say, well, this is what's happening. What do you want to do? Do you want to fix it? One time I had a guy come and he wanted a new driver. And so he comes in, you know, I said, okay. And he said this great tailor-made driver, and he was hitting it so far right. And I said, well, I could turn the club face that it's almost facing your left foot. Is that what you want? Because he had a major swing flaw. I said, do you want me to fix the club so that it kind of compensates, or do you want to fix your golf swing? He says, let's fix my golf swing.
Okay.
Actually, he's been a student off and on for quite a long time. But the thing is, it's like, do you want to fix your golf swing or do you want a Band-Aid? I'm probably not the person that you want for Band-Aids because I really don't teach Band-Aids.
Got it.
Most of the people I work with I fix.
Yep. Okay.
And so there's a commitment. And usually you have to review what it is that's happening. This is what's happening. This is what you're doing. What do you want to do?
Okay. No, that's a good advisement. We do have 2 questions from the audience. Actually, yes, one first from Linda Shane is there a drill to help you change your weight? And then the second question was, of the 3 grips, which is there a preference of one over the other? Like, does one give you power versus accuracy? So the first question was, Linda, was the drill for the change in your weight?
Yes, there are 2 drills. One, you set it to the ball.
You might want to move back a little bit so we can see the ball. Sorry.
Okay, can you see? Okay, you set it to the ball like normal. Move your left foot close to your right foot. Take your back swing. I'm not going to swing this. And then you step into the ball. Now you put the ball on a tee so you catch the ball. Okay. So here, foot over, go back, step, and catch the ball. Another one, this one that I was just showing you, just rock yourself back and forth.
The Harley. Okay.
Harley. You know, just like the regular Harley, you can put your hands this way, under, one on top, one under, just back and forth. Feel your weight shifting from right to left, back and forth. The grip.
The grips, right?
I use an overlapping grip. I have longer fingers. I have thin, longer fingers, and this is more comfortable for me. It really depends. Hardly anybody does a baseball grip. I would recommend that you don't do that. The interlocking, some people are uncomfortable with that because their knuckles are together. If you're comfortable, that's fine. If you're more comfortable, you really have to try both and find out which one's more comfortable. It's really 6 and 1/2 dozen.
Okay.
Except for the baseball. Nobody does the baseball.
Right. A question in the drill on the stepping one, where's the ball? And I'm assuming that's on the...
But it's on a tee. So
it's on a tee, okay.
Okay, it's in the normal spot. Set up normal. Foot over, back, step.
And then just do the swing and hit the ball.
And hit the ball. Because I'm facing it.
You're facing the wrong way, and we don't want to hit the computer.
And we don't want to hit the computer.
Okay. Question, another one from Helen Stavel. Can you give us a simple visual of a chip shot? Say that you're 10 feet off the grass and the pin is 2/3 of the way the back of the green. Just the technique to show how you make sure the stance and you don't shift your weight.
Okay, I will play the ball. Now, how far am I away from the green?
10 feet off the green.
So 10 feet.
And the pin is 2/3 of the way back of the green.
That's almost a pitch. So you're probably going to be swinging back probably to about here. My feet, I'll play the ball back in my stance. It's in line with my back foot. I do open my stance a little bit. I am leaning forward. I'm choking down on the club. And I'm probably going to swing to about here. Depends on if it's flat. Probably going to use like a 9-iron because I'm lofting it quite a bit. It's either a 9-iron or a pitching wedge. So I'll probably go to here, and then I'd probably pivot a little bit, almost like I'm tossing it there.
And then Sharon, if you had to make an actual pitch shot of that, it's a wider stance and a little weight shift. If let's say it was a further shot, though.
Yeah, my feet get a little wider.
Okay.
I personally keep my feet very close together on most of my pitches. It's a personal, you know, I do keep them very close. It's just easy for me to pivot.
So, okay. So it's a pivot, not as much of a weight shift?
No, because you're leaning left.
Okay.
You're already leaning on your left side. A short shot, you pivot. You're already on your left, and it's a pivoting motion. There's not shifting going on here.
Okay.
I'd be like this. Let's say even if I'm going back a little bit more, maybe I go to here, and then I'm just turning. It's just that. So your weight is already on your left side.
Got it.
That's one of the things I do see a lot of with short shots, that people don't lean enough on their left side.
Okay, no, that's interesting for pitch shots too, because I don't do that. And then a question on is like, we got a question on how much do new clubs make a difference?
Well, like that person, I have people, they say, oh, is this driver a good driver? Sure, but it might not be good for you. You know, it just depends on what fits you. I highly recommend that I go for club fitting, and I know how to fit clubs, but I'll actually go, and what it is that club fitters have, first of all, they have knowledge that I'm not interested in learning. I mean, they know all the shafts, and they know all the clubs, and and they study this stuff. They know, and they fit so many people that they know what would fit individuals. So first of all, the sizes aren't that difficult. It's the club that performs the best for you, what it is you're looking for. In other words, if you're looking to get more distance, if you want more height out of the ball, if you want a straighter shot, there's clubs now, and the shafts that fit them can produce, you know, optimum performance for you. I did a club fitting over the winter. and I wound up with, you know, specs that perform the best for me. And, you know, that, I mean, I have people I recommend to people for club fitting. John Ioris is, the man has so much, you had, they have so much information and they know what they're doing, because I've sent so many people and I see the result when the person comes back with properly fit clubs. The person performs better. And they don't have to be the newest, the latest, and the greatest, except, you know, that's usually what you can get unless you get it on eBay or something. But it's so important if you're playing, and if you're not standard, even if you're a player, you should definitely be fit for your clubs. It makes such a difference, especially with a driver.
Right.
Driver's enormous.
Nope, I agree. And from someone who's had it done, it just makes you more confident in the club when it's in your hand.
Yes.
So it also is a bit of a mind thing.
They guarantee the work. If you don't like the clubs, they'll take them back, or they'll work on them until you're satisfied with what you have.
Okay.
The other point too is, you know, I know Brian is on Thursday.
Right.
You know, I'm talking about all these motions and stuff. One of the reasons people don't do those, like let's say the person who moves their arms and swings the club inside because they don't turn, is because they don't have the mobility to do it, or they're not strong enough to do it. And Brian, I've worked with Brian for several years on, you know, an exercise. I since moved to up here, so it's kind of a long. But that's the other thing. Not only club fitting, it's your body working to do this. Many people, they can't do it. I could be out there teaching and saying, okay, let's turn. Well, they can't turn because they're not mobile enough.
Right.
So someone like Brian, you know, Lorianne, you work out, you get mobility and flexibility and strength.
Yes. Yep. No, and that was a great segue. We've done with your questions, but folks, a couple of things. One, thank you, Sharon, very much for sharing this. We will do a little wrap-up commentary with not only her offer that she's extending to the WMGA members, but also where the recording is, as well as some of her, we'll point out where her videos are, so if you wanted to see her drills specifically. And then also in regards to that, Brian Harrington will be doing the sports performance aspect of it, and will dovetail with Sharon talking about what she said, the mobility, the flexibility, and the stability, and how that all works in conjunction from that, and some drills and things to look at. So I appreciate Sharon again. Thank you very much. I know it's kind of hard to give a class when the immediate feedback is not there with a bunch of eyes looking at you. But thank you very much. I apologize, folks, for some of the technical blips on the audio, but hopefully you were able to make out. And thank you very much for the drills and for all of you to join in. And we will, and Sarah, thank you very much for your technical assistance as well. And I just want to let you know, somebody wrote here, Sharon, I want to let you know that Sharon is the greatest instructor I ever had.
Who wrote that?
Ron Axelrod? Yeah, Ron Axelrod. So you have some fans. So thank you very much, everybody. Sarah, I think we're about ready to leave the meeting, and thanks everyone for your attendance. Bye-bye.